Hello, Colin Hung here for Healthcare IT Today, and I'm excited to sit down with my next guest to talk about something that when you hear about it, you're going to scratch your head and go, is that really a thing? And the answer is yes. I am joined by the great team here at Caregility. Joining me is Mike Brandofino, President and COO of Caregility.
Thanks for having us, Colin.
Thank you. And Susan Krisiniak from Caregility. You're the Chief Nursing Officer.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, good to be here.
And great to have you here. It's exciting to be here at HIMSS. A little bit of energy here in the room. I love it. Hopefully it's been a good conference for the two of you.
Absolutely. A lot of good traffic, a lot of good hospital systems coming through.
So much interest.
And that's the thing. Like, I got to be honest. When I first heard about this, I was like, really? But then you start thinking about it. And of course, what I'm talking about is virtual care for inpatients. And, you know, what I want to ask you is, we've seen some of the direct-to-consumer telehealth solutions that waver a little bit, but that doesn't seem to be happening with the inpatient version of this. That seems to be taking off. Can you guys comment to me about, hey, first of all, what it is, and second of all,
Sure.
Why is it taking off?
Sure. You know, what we call it the COVID bump with the outpatient telehealth, because, you know, people couldn't go to the offices, and so you had this big pickup, and then it dropped off. But that never happened in the inpatient settings. And the reason is that the challenges didn't go away. Nursing shortages, doctor shortages, specialists. So, you know, programs like telestroke, you still need stroke doctors to cover multiple hospitals. Or telenursing is virtual nursing is a huge opportunity right now in health systems because you just don't have enough nurses. So what you're seeing is really this concept of having the ability to do virtual care in every room because you never know when you're going to need to. And it just continues to grow.
Yeah, we're looking for major continuous shortfalls in nursing. Not only the shortfalls that Mike described, but the level of burnout is escalating. The American Organization of Nurse Leaders just identified that 67% of nurses have some symptoms of burnout. So not only are we chasing a workforce that's already depleted, we're at risk of losing those that can stay in their profession.
So, I mean, obviously it sounds like the solution can address the burnout and the workforce issues, but how does it integrate actually into bedside care?
So it actually assists the bedside nurse in some levels. We're not taking the nurse out of the equation by any way, shape, or form. What we're actually doing is on one level utilizing the nurse who's sunsetting out of their profession and gathering that expertise of him or her to be that hub nurse that is really then supporting the new nurses entering the profession. In the logistics of it, when you think about the demand of the workforce, when you have patients that require a one-on-one, for all kinds of different reasons, when you can consolidate that view, you eliminate maybe up to 10 to 16 staff members. And you're then putting that expert nurse in there that is not only using bi-directional communication through a visual view as well as an audio view, but now we've layered AI that it also can add detection to changes that put that patient at risk. They're moving inappropriately off the bed. They're walking around the room and they're supposed to be flat post-procedure. And that automates a command or direction to please sit down, help is on the way. So it's a combination of not only the observational communication piece, but now we've taken it to another level, which is really in all of this supporting care. Another way, conducting an interview for admission or discharge. We've done a lot of research with one of our partners and realized that takes away 30 minutes of a nurse's time for each admission and up to an hour on the discharge end. And think about not only that delivery and that assessment of care, but then having family involved in that process. Even if they're not there, they can be remotely brought in and contribute to that information and that education.
So it sounds like what you're doing is it truly is a plus. It's not, like you said before, it's not taking away anything that's already there. You're just layering on top and adding additional services that, frankly, the patient needs and the nursing folks probably would love to have available to them.
If you think about it, it's really about allowing nurses to practice to the top of their education as opposed to doing tasks that you can do with other folks, if possible. And it's really about giving more time back to the floor nurses.
And that's where you start to see some return on investment. You might be eliminating overtime. We certainly went through a phase of agency and travel nurses that were exponentially more costly to an organization. And that still is occurring, not necessarily in big academic areas, but certainly in rural hospitals across the country.
Right.
So they're still costing them a lot to do care. So when we can transfer that out, it really becomes a very supportive, not only from a quality safety metric, but also a financial budgetary gain.
And like you mentioned just at the top there, that there does need to be a little bit of infrastructure. I'm assuming there's some sort of TV or something that people can, in that way they can see the other nurse that they're interacting with. And is that nurse physically in the building, or can they be anywhere, or
Yeah, so it depends on the model and how you're utilizing it. We do have systems that have a virtual physical building that oversees several, maybe smaller hospitals. In larger areas, they actually incorporate it right within the structure of the department, so that virtual nurse can swap out with their other peers and exchange that position for some respite time as we go back to the burnout phenomena. So it's right on team. When you think about tele-ICU as well, that closeness of proximity to be able to help and support is part of that, can be part of that role.
Gotcha.
Mercy Virtual has a building in St. Louis, 6 floors, hospitalists, surgeons, nurses, no patients. They support the hospitals remotely. So some do a centralized hub, some might do it in the building itself.
Amazing. And I apologize because I got so excited talking about this inpatient virtual care that I didn't ask you about Caregility and what do you guys do. So let me do that now.
Well, Caregility got its start focusing on ICU with a partner who helped support with a platform tele-ICU services. And what we found was the technology at the time was not delivering. It wasn't reliable and stable enough. So we developed basically a cloud-based solution with purpose-built devices that really solved that. And to give you an idea, the first unit we have installed at Mercy just passed 7 years in operation. Still can be updated with our current AI software. And so that solved the reliability problem. Then it was, how do you interact with the workflows? And that's really key. Video conferencing is a commodity. People do a Zoom, but the workflow and enabling nurses to get access to the room, or sitters to sit and watch multiple patients and then transfer that without losing sight of the patient, that's all the workflow. So our platform delivers workflows across the different modalities in the health systems. And we have about 19,000 rooms connected to our service right now.
That many, wow, that is quite the number.
So we have many large customers, many household names from a healthcare perspective, and it's continuing to grow.
One of the things I think is pretty important these days is demonstrating that investing in a technology like yours or a platform like yours yields results pretty quickly. What are some of the results that your customers have been realizing now that they've got your solution in?
Yeah, I think they fall in two kind of buckets for when I think about it. The first is certainly you're improving quality and safety at a very high level. And that we used to think of that as kind of like soft dollar return, right? Risk aversion, risk mitigation. We now know that, and then there's the other bucket, which is clearly decreasing the amount of workforce demand when you think about consolidating the observation of multiple patients with a single person that can integrate and obviously create those safe environments. However, we do know now that, and one of my roles is to really help leadership connect those dots. So when you think about some of the risk aversion and you think about the snowball effect of that, so you have a fall that results in an injury that prolongs length of stay, that inhibits another patient being admitted to that bed, that generates more revenue. There's truly hard dollars associated with it. And that...
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
And, some other things that we kind of thought would happen, but we realize now with customers, one is patient satisfaction scores went way up with virtual nursing. And if you think about it, the nurse on the floor always gets that shoulder pull, the code down the hall, or some other patient screaming, they need their attention. But the virtual nurses don't have that shoulder pull, so they get to spend a little bit more face time with the patients. So we saw patient scores go up. The other thing is the quality of life for nurses and the ability to lengthen the cycle. So we've had some nurses that physically can be on the floor, back injuries, knee injuries, but they could be in the virtual nursing program. So you get to extend their career. So nurse turnover rate is lessened, but you get to keep that knowledge because those nurses have experience that the younger nurses just don't have. So that mentoring capability really has added tremendous value to the health systems. And it's one of the kind of the side benefits of virtual care that I don't think we originally considered, but it's really a big benefit.
Yeah. Well, the largest group of nurses was baby boomers, right, generationally, and they're all sunsetting, right? And so thinking about just that, and even on-the-job injuries that you can no longer work a 12-hour shift, but you could virtually help support your team, has tremendous value for everyone.
And I got to imagine that for the nurses that are on the floor, it's just almost like a security blanket to know that the virtual nurses are there too, to say, okay, I don't have to, shoulder the entire stress of making sure all these patients are well taken. I got a coworker that can back me up.
Well, there's actually technology right in the room that you hit the button, it activates, an interaction with the virtual nurse, and I need you to do a double identification on a certain drug administration. Historically, I have to go find another nurse. I might have to walk the halls, I might have to get on the intercom system, which is very disruptive. This way, I can talk to that nurse with our Zoom capability. They can look at the drug, the dosage, they can identify a patient armband, and check that box for them in that delivery. And you can see the time saving just in that description.
That's incredible. I really like that. And I like how you put that it's an unexpected benefit, that it's extending the careers of people who might have just left because they just couldn't do the physical part of it, but definitely all that mental knowledge and then institutional knowledge that you talked about.
Absolutely, yes.
So I got to ask this because what you do contributes to what we would call the future of the inpatient hospital room. What does that look like for you? Can you describe that for me?
It's all about information and gathering information from the room. So what we're seeing is health systems, it's kind of like oxygen. You don't put oxygen in only a certain number of rooms because you never know when you need it. So virtual care is starting to be in every room. And then the extension of that are other sensors, whether it's contactless vital capture or it's wearables or it's information from the bed. But the room of the future is all about gathering information and presenting it in a way so that nurses, whether they're floor nurses or virtual nurses, could focus their attention on the patients that need it the most, and filtering out information or doing tasks that they have to do, but it doesn't necessarily need to be done by a nurse. So that we envision with our platform, blending some of the AI that we've launched, computer vision, ambient listening, and at some point in the near future, checking in the Epic file when the patient got their pain medication, using a chat bot with visual identification of the patient, asking them a question about their pain, tracking that, making sure that we got a valid answer, and then telling the virtual nurse or the floor nurse, we got valid answers out of 17 patients, these 3 we didn't, you need to go in and do it for them. So if we can shave off a minute here, 15 minutes there, 20 minutes there, you are actually accomplishing, something that hospitals wanted to do for a long time. You're improving ratios, right? You're without actually saying you're improving ratios because you're saving time. And so what we believe the room of the future is all about information and gathering it and presenting it in a readable way for the nurses.
Yeah, I think someone asked me this not too long ago, and I said 5 years ago, if I thought this was how healthcare was going to be delivered, I would have probably not gotten there. We were using telehealth for stroke, activation. It was wonky. It wasn't always, complete. It was unreliable because it was the best we had. This is now why I joined Caregility 2 months ago. Was I want to be part of this movement. The modernization of how we're capturing health information that duplicates every 73 days now, and being able to harness that information that it's getting to the patient with clinical pathways, with decision making, and with the right people delivering it and supporting it. Healing and presence will always be there, right? We always need that bedside component of care. But if we can escalate the resources that nurse has, it shifts the dynamic of their ability to be proud of what they're doing, to be confident in what they're doing, which is the key to success in quality and healthcare. And we're not that good at it yet, right? Not in telemedicine, but in healthcare in general in the US. So we have to be able to think outside those optics, and that's what I see what we're doing now.
Now, Mike, I have to ask you this because I can't do an interview these days without asking about AI. You mentioned AI at the top there. How are you using AI? I'm assuming it's not an AI avatar that's coming up and talking to me. And you're using it to enhance, right?
Unfortunately, our industry has been saddled with a number of companies that have thrown AI at the wall and hope it sticks. I kind of say AI is a hammer looking for a nail. What we've taken, what we call is responsible AI. So we're intertwining it in areas that are not as intrusive and get people used to it. So our first iteration of computer vision is for sitting. So virtual sitting is watching patients at risk. A typical scenario is, and we have night vision. So you'll have someone sitting in a room, night vision, looking at 15 rooms, 16 rooms. If we could tell them that the person in room 150, their leg just got outside of the bed, or that they just walked out of camera view, right? Even though they should be looking at it, it draws their attention. That is where it fits. Another one is we have a contactless breathing rate, resting rebreathing rate, and heart rate. Nurses will tell you that that's one of the least accurate things that they measure because they don't take the time to do it. But this takes thousands of measurements a day. And so now you could get the trending of that patient without going in the room, without turning on the lights, without turning on the camera. And so that's how we're weaving AI in. And eventually they will blend together into those automated roundings, like I said, where we use all of that AI together.
I like it. I like it. If you were to give one single takeaway from our conversation today to our audience, what would that one takeaway be?
To me, it's virtual care is the modernization of healthcare. And at some point, we're going to take away the word virtual, and it is just how we do care. And so I think that's what everybody needs to understand. It is not, a wave that's going to go away. It is going to be what care is.
Mm-hmm. And I think mine would be don't get left behind. We have a very savvy population of consumers in healthcare. And as soon as they realize that Hospital A is doing all of this advanced technology, like we know that it drives business, right? So don't get left behind, don't get left in the dirt. You need to be, again, open to the opportunities. We work very closely with our partner hospitals in identifying what will be the best workflow for them to start the process. But we're seeing now they're coming back and saying, we need more. What are you doing now? Because the new generation of nurses was born in technology. So they're looking for it, they're open to it, they're sponges. So healthcare needs to stay ahead of where all of this is moving.
Final question for you, Mike. Where can people go to learn more about Caregility?
Sure. Of course, you can go to www.caregility.com. All the information about our different workflows, different solutions, but also a lot of use cases about how hospitals are using the technology.
Amazing. Well, Mike, Susan, thank you so much for being on the program today. I really appreciate all the information you shared.
Thanks for having us.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
This has been Colin Hung for Healthcare IT Today. If you like this interview, please mash that like button and click subscribe. Plus, head over to healthcareittoday.com where you can find more great content like this. I'm Colin Hung. Thanks for being here, and I'll catch you on the next video.